Good, David. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight. I'm delighted to be here. My name is Ivana Bacik. I owe a lot to Trinity. I came here first in the late 80s as a very shy, swotty student, quickly found a very welcoming environment, plenty of student politics to throw myself into, got involved in the women's group, the Socialist and Labour societies, and in my final year was elected President of Trinity Students' Union. It was an eventful and turbulent year. We were taken to court by SPUC, the Society for the Protection of the Unborn Child, and we were threatened with prison for giving information out to women in crisis pregnancy in dire circumstances. I'm proud to wear a repeal of the Eighth Amendment badge. It's no surprise that all my adult life I have campaigned for repeal of the Eighth Amendment and will continue to do so, whether re-elected or not. We did escape prison with the help of a brilliant young lawyer called Mary Robinson, but we were declared bankrupt and the case dragged on for many years. I went to London after graduation, like many of my contemporaries, qualified as a barrister there and worked there for some years, and then returned to Dublin and have been teaching now in Trinity for many years. And one of the first things I did as an academic here was to initiate a law school scholarship scheme which paved the way for what we now see as the very successful Trinity Access programme, to give set-aside places at the time in law, now across the college, for students from disadvantaged backgrounds. I also practised as a barrister for 16 years and in that capacity represented Catherine Zappone and Anne-Louise Gilligan in their groundbreaking case seeking the equal right to marry for gay couples, back at a time when David Norris was one of very few figures speaking publicly on that issue. My time working mostly in criminal practice gave me a passion for penal reform, for the rights of prisoners and for criminal justice work, and I continue to work with the Irish Penal Reform Trust and others on these issues. I was first elected to the Seanad in 2007 and was given the privilege of re-election in 2011. Since 2011, I've been Deputy Leader of the Seanad and Leader of the Labour Party group in the Seanad. I've introduced a number of private members' bills, including the first private members' bill on climate change in 2007 with Oisin and Friends of the Earth, and other legislation. And in a record achievement for a senator, I've had 3 private members' bills that have become law, that are now acts. A bill to criminalise female genital mutilation, on which I worked with Akidwa, a bill to allow solemnisers from the Humanist Association to conduct legal weddings, and a bill, which is now an act again, to end the potential for discrimination against LGBT teachers in employment, to amend Section 37. I've also authored 2 major reports for the Oireachtas Justice Committee, one on penal reform and one on women's representation in politics, which paved the way for the very successful gender quota legislation that led to the increased numbers of women elected to the Dáil in the recent election. And I've worked with others on a cross-party basis, with Senator Gillian Van Turnout on children's rights, on the successful amendment to end corporal punishment in schools, and on Seanad reform. I was one of very few sitting senators to make a submission to Maurice Manning's expert working group on Seanad reform. Finally, as a parent of 2 young daughters who's passionate about equal access to education, I championed and founded a group in our area which led to the setting up of a multi-denominational primary school, which is thriving, and I've been working with other groups to look for repeal of the law which allows schools to discriminate against pupils on the grounds of religion. And I've been very active on trade union rights all my working life, and I'm an active member of IFOT, and recently introduced a bill in January with the backing of SIPTU and the NUJ to allow for collective bargaining for freelance workers. So I'm running for re-election, frankly, because I want to continue to work on all of these issues with your support, on women's rights, on the environment, on equality, on equal access to education for all, on secularism and in a more inclusive, tolerant and pluralist Irish society. And it's on that basis that I ask for your number 1 vote. Gurmagh.